So good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to be here, and like everyone, very, very excited to be with all of you today. And I'm going to start off telling you a little bit about my background so that it can bring context to what I'm going to talk about today, the false divide between public and private universities. And so in 2017, I joined Gus as the CEO of Canada. I think it was one of the first CEOs in their system. There's a lot of CEOs now. But I really got to see how I could do things differently, because I was with a group of incredible innovators and entrepreneurs that were really open to building something unique in Canada and unique across the globe. When I joined, again, my colleagues from public universities said to me, "You've actually found your stride. You found where you belong," because this group gives you the runway to be very creative in the world of education. So with all of this experience, well over 35 years, I've got to see what works, I've got to see what lasts, and I've got to see where we can't keep up in the system. And so there's a lot of discussion these days about publics and privates. And so there's always the question, you know, public, private, one or the other. And this is a question we have in Canada. But if you look at other parts of the world, and I'm going to use the US as an example, we have Harvard, we have MIT, we have Stanford, we have Yale. They're all private universities. And those universities graduate people that lead nations. They have graduates that have built companies that drive our global economy. And they have graduates that have created policy, again, that's shaping our world. And nobody questions that they're private universities. There's both public and they're private, but private universities are actually part of a high-performing system. They're accepted. So I think today we need to ask ourselves the question, the education system that we have today in Canada, is it meeting the needs of the future? Is it meeting the needs of the world today? First of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the legacy. Public universities are outstanding in Canada. We all know that. We've had, our public universities were founded long before the modern existence of Canada even. And our public universities have educated generations of leaders. They've advanced scientific research, and they've helped shape our national identity. And our public universities have been built to last. They protect academic freedom, they've preserved academic standards, and they've allowed for research and scholarly activity to flourish for decades. So as we reflect on the landscape of the higher education system, we must ask ourselves again, we're in a rapidly changing world, and the system we have today, is it meeting the needs? We all know how quickly the global economy is evolving. So we have new industries on the rise. AI is shaping entire professions. And at the same time, countries are competing for talent. And Dr. Gray and myself a few months ago had a meeting with one of the top engineering firms in the world. And they were saying that very thing to us. Like, you know, the system is graduating great engineers, but they're still missing something that we need. And so we're going to talk to them about how we actually can work with them to create the kind of skills and knowledge that they want for the new economy. So this is what we understand as the skills gap. And the skills gap is impacting our productivity in Canada, our innovation, and our competitiveness. In Canada, we also have a demographic challenge, we have an aging population, and we have a severe labor shortage. So the talent to fill these gaps is actually coming from students, international students and domestic students. So education has always been a bridge to opportunity, but today education is also the bridge to renewal of our country. So how do we respond to this pressure? In Canada, lately, our conversation about higher education relevance often reverts back to public or private. So public universities have been seen as the guardian of academic tradition, academic rigor, and they've set that stage, high-level research. When it comes to private universities, unfortunately, often there's skepticism. And many universities around the world are shaping modern research, entrepreneurship, and policy. They operate outside of the public sphere. Those are the private universities. And the countries like the US, UK, Germany, Singapore, they're redesigning their education systems to meet public need with private speed and investment. And we're not doing that in Canada. Legitimacy of universities, public or private, always comes from performance, from the quality of teaching, the success of our graduates, the impact that they're having on societies. But for private universities, we seem to be judged by ownership, not by performance. But one part of our system in Canada, we already accept a dual model. Let's talk about the K-12 system. So in Canada, we have very good public schools, but we also have a model that has independent schools, Montessori schools, we have specialized learning academies, we have IB schools, and that diversity is never seen as a problem. But when we get to higher education and we start to talk about private and diversity, it becomes a point of tension. So why do we celebrate this innovative learning in the early years? But when we have a person who's is going through a career change and needs a model that's adaptable, flexible, affordable, their career's on the line, it's a challenge. So one of the things I want to stress is that different learners have different needs, and no single model at one time can meet them. So there's an artificial line between what we accept and what we question. So public and private universities are not completely opposite. And I've had experience in both, and I have tremendous respect for both systems. It's interesting because the majority of us that are leading private universities all came from public. So we gained our foundation in publics. We learned about quality, we learned about academic standards, systems, policies, governance structures, and we brought that knowledge from the public sector into the private sector. Students are at the heart of everything we do, whether we're in a public university or private university. We have that in common. So at public universities, they're very well known for excelling at long-term knowledge creation, large-scale research, and broad academic exploration. They have various funding sources, as well as government funding, and they have a lot of internal and external stakeholders to satisfy, which takes a lot of time. In the private universities, we're agile, we pivot quickly, we can shift resources and investment where we need. I think about global university systems, and during COVID in Canada, we grew by 200%. When everyone else some are still saying they're recovering from COVID, but we grew because we were able to shift those investments where we needed, and we went to what our students needed wherever they were in whatever part of the world. We're also driven by market demand, and we have a lot of strength in recruitment. That is probably one of the things that you see in private universities, is they have tremendous strength in recruitment. And public universities want to work more with private these days because they can see that strength that we have. And I would say that private universities also have an international focus, although they all strive to have more domestic students as well. So this modern ecosystem does not just rely on one model. We rely on diversity, collaboration, partnerships, and shared resources. So publics and privates are not opposite. They're both engines. They're just different engines for different purposes. So I've had the opportunity to build new institutions from the ground up, and I've had the opportunity to reimagine current institutions. And when you have that opportunity, you actually get to see things differently. I just was recently with one of the most respected education leaders in the United States, and she made a comment that it's a lot easier to start a brand new university than it is to pivot an existing university. I had an amazing experience at Thompson Rivers University, where I was an associate vice president for a number of years. When I started with them, they were called Caribou College. And then the British Columbia government decided that they wanted more universities, but instead of starting universities, they would take the community college system and they would make them into university colleges. So Caribou College transitioned to University College of the Caribou, but the mayor, the local politicians, the UCC executive, they wanted their own university. They didn't want a university college, they wanted their own university. And you saw the community come together, the political leaders, the university college executive, and they pushed very hard, and they worked for this, and they finally got their own university called Thompson Rivers. Now, what happened around Thompson Rivers is this incredible growth and development that happened in the city. So the university was built on the hill, and what we saw is this incredible real estate development around it, accommodation, retail, grocery stores, gas stations, sports fields, all around the university. The university became the center of gravity for the city of Kamloops. And what's interesting about this, it was a public university college model transition to a public university because it was rooted in the community. And that public model was able to happen because of that connection with the community. What happened to me next is a few years later, joining private sector, I was invited to come to Niagara Falls. And I was told the mayor, economic development, city council, they have a vision to have their own university in Niagara Falls. And so I came, I had a couple of meetings, I had a tour of the city, and I thought, I've seen this movie before. I've seen this. And what the mayor's vision was is that a university would revitalize the downtown core of Niagara Falls. And it had all of the elements. It had probably, I'm a marketer at heart, so when you see Niagara Falls, you know this is a dream to market anywhere in the world. It had the vision of the people in the city, community support. It had every element, and there was a vision to have a university for the future in the city of Niagara Falls. So we needed a model that was different, though. We needed a model where private investment could align with the vision. So today, here we are. We've just celebrated our second year operating as the University of Niagara Falls, Canada. We had record achievement. The university, the proposal was approved in 18 months. Nobody had ever done that before. And it's a full-fledged university in Niagara Falls, accredited by the Ontario government. So again, a different approach, a different model, a private model, but the commonality here was two institutions rooted in their community, both with a vision to have their own university. We can build a strong system that can be built to complement one another. And together we can build a system where institutions expand capacity, fuel innovation, increase access, create efficiency, and avoid duplication. Not just pathways to careers, but a catalyst for innovation, inclusivity, and resilience for Canada's future. So the risk is that if we keep the system too narrow and we don't open it up, we're going to lose the opportunity. It brings me back to what we're talking about today. The event, the theme is a digital mosaic. So as we know, mosaics are made up of many shapes, many colors, and many pieces. But on their own, they're limited. If we put them all together, it's far more powerful. And that's what the future of higher education should look like. It should look like a mosaic, not one model, repeated and repeated and repeated. We should be looking at a model that when we bring it together, we create operational flexibility. We can have shared platforms, learning platforms, even shared infrastructure between publics and privates and joint research. So other countries are succeeding in operating dual models, but in Canada, we're just not there yet. Different learners, different needs, different futures, different models. And Canada does not need to choose between public or private. The question is, can we design a system ambitious enough for us to embrace both? One of my favorite poets and songwriters, Leonard Cohen, a Canadian, says that there is a crack in everything. But that's how the light gets in. That crack is there, and that's how the light gets in. And so, as we ask the question, let's design a new system, can we design a new system? I believe that the answer lies in our collective commitment to reimagining education together. So thank you very much. Thank you.